This little girl was so pitiful. Just because her parents had a little conflict, they abandoned her in a deserted place. When she tried to get off the car to find her parents, 2 gunshots rang out from afar. After her aunt found out about the incident, she immediately called the police. When the police searched everywhere, they only found the bodies of her parents and could not find any trace of the girl. But when everyone thought the worst had happened, a miracle occurred. A week later, the girl, who had been missing, appeared safe and sound from the forest. The important thing was, how did a 5-year-old girl survive in the wild? Soon after, the psychologists from the police department came to conduct an investigation. However, her aunt said that the girl couldn't remember anything. At this moment, the doctor noticed a picture on the table, with the father's face blackened. The doctor immediately called the girl over to ask why. The girl replied that her father was a bad person, and bad people were black, so it was only natural to erase black things. The aunt thought the girl was just joking. Unexpectedly, the next day when the girl went to the park, she happened to meet her drunk neighbor uncle. He was stuffing the pet dog that the young man had been searching for with great difficulty into a pot. However, the young man knelt down crying out of heartache, and the man mocked him. "You actually consider a dog as family? People nowadays are really crazy." The girl, standing not far away, witnessed the whole incident. After returning home, she sneaked into the uncle's house. While he was sound asleep, she took fire and lit charcoal. Nobody could imagine that a little girl of several years old could do such a thing. In the blink of an eye, Yikayang became a high school student. That day, she and her classmates found the body of a kitten that they often fed in the dilapidated girls' restroom. Yikayang picked up the empty cat food can beside it and smelled it. It was a strange, indescribable smell. The kitten must have been poisoned to death, and the person behind this was undoubtedly someone within the school. Yikayang and her friends went to the rooftop and started observing the people who passed by. Then, a strange smile appeared on Yikayang's face because she had found the culprit who killed the kitten. At this point, she asked her friend, "If you found the culprit, what would you do?" Her friend replied, "I want to kill him. He cruelly killed the kitten. How can he live?" The neighbor uncle picked up a bowl of milk to drink, and then he started feeling dizzy and nauseous. He staggered to the door and found that the door was locked from the outside. Eventually, the uncle died in front of the door. Outside the door was Yikayang, the person behind this. While the uncle was out, she snuck into his room, went straight to the refrigerator, and poured antifreeze into the milk carton. To avoid the uncle from noticing anything unusual, she didn't forget to shake the carton well. Then, she waited for the uncle to return home. She did this because the uncle had cruelly poisoned the kitten at school. Since that incident, Yikayang seemed to be captivated by this feeling and began to relentlessly seek out uncaught bad people to take action against. Her next target was a man on TV who was arrested for rape but ultimately acquitted and released. First, she followed the man to a tea shop. Then, she had her subordinates disguise themselves as network maintenance personnel to enter the shop, using the excuse of fixing the network lines, then copying all the data in the man's phone and sending it to Yikayang. After obtaining the data, the man's phone constantly received messages. Many fans urged him to update new posts quickly, hoping he would post more voyeuristic videos. The next step was to find perfect alibis. Yikayang bought a lot of potato chips home to experiment, after taking out glue and adding oil in a certain ratio. Then injecting the glue into the fried potato chips, she finally threw it in front of a white mouse. It only took a small bite before it died of poisoning. Then, Yikayang contacted her subordinates. These people all had one thing in common. They all carried a black doll. Yikayang also sent a message in the group saying that there was a generous reward for pictures of the school beauty's skirt at the school festival. As expected, to obtain the large reward, the man appeared at the school festival the next day, wearing a black hat. The water bottle in his hand kept going under the girls' skirts. In addition, a mini camera was attached to the water bottle. Even the black hat on his head had a mini camera installed for the convenience of his fans to watch the video. He went into a hamburger shop, his eyes fixed on the girl in a maid uniform in front of him, but he didn't know that he had been watched by death for a long time. First, they put cooking oil mixed with glue into the hamburger shop. The chef didn't even look and poured it into the pan. The potato chips fried in cooking oil mixed with glue eventually appeared before the man. He casually picked up a piece and ate it, paying for it with his life. Lee Kyung's subordinates ambushed nearby, pouring a different type of chemical into the bubble pool. The bubbles were blown by the wind and were smashed by the man. Then, he passed by the water balloon battle game. A water balloon containing chemicals hit the man on the head, officially announcing his death. 3 types of harmless chemicals mixed together caused him to die on the street, and the mastermind behind it had an alibi and was not at the scene. But at this moment, a pale woman walked over to the man. She pleaded, "Delete the video of me." But the man in front of her didn't move. The woman took out a knife she had prepared in advance and stabbed him directly in the chest. At this moment, the woman, losing her mind, realized that she had become a murderer in front of so many people. She was immediately arrested by the police. Looking at the expression of the girl as she was taken away, Lee Kyung felt a little uncomfortable. The man was clearly killed by her. So, the next day, she hacked into the mall screens and posted the whole process of the man's death, because Lee Kyung wanted to let everyone know that the real killer was someone else. But at this time, a woman wrapped in a quilt in the crowd noticed Lee Kyung's murder tactics. This man had just logged onto a website for online prostitution at home when the police rang the doorbell. He wasn't afraid at all. He picked up a toilet plunger to block them and prevent them from entering. At this moment, Koo Kyung-jae discovered a doll in his house. She rushed in to take the doll, even though she was eventually chased out of the house by the man. They couldn't open his computer, but they knew he must be connected to the killer. After Koo Kyung-jae left, the man opened the window, took a picture of them with his camera, and sent it to Lee Kyung. This made Lee Kyung feel very strange. Why was this woman who was not a police detective from the insurance company following this case? Out of curiosity, Lee Kyung opened her aunt's closet and found an insurance company ID card inside. She disguised herself as a cleaning lady and easily blended into the insurance company. Lee Kyung sneaked into Kyung-yi's office and saw detailed evidence of the man's murder plot written on a whiteboard. Lee Kyung installed a listening device she had prepared in advance on the light bulb. Unexpectedly, Koo Kyung-jae's assistant suddenly returned to the office. It turned out he was there to water Koo Kyung-jae's plants. Just as he was about to leave, he noticed a trash can outside Koo Kyung-jae's office. So, he pushed the trash can to the garbage collection area in the parking lot. As he turned to leave, Lee Kyung emerged from the trash can, calmly walking past him. The scent of perfume emanating from Lee Kyung entranced him. But upon serious thought, a cleaning lady couldn't possibly have perfume on her. So, he immediately chased after her. Lee Kyung sensed something was wrong and quickly ran away. Unfortunately, she couldn't shake him off. Cornered, Koo Kyung-jae chose to jump from the rooftop. After breaking her right leg, she successfully lost the assistant and got on a bus to leave. The assistant returned to the office and immediately reported to Koo Kyung-jae that the perpetrator had injured her right leg. Koo Kyung-jae quickly went to find Lee Kyung to see if her right leg was injured. Unexpectedly, Lee Kyung, in order to prove her innocence, got up and jumped off the stage, pretending nothing had happened. After discovering that Lee Kyung wasn't injured, Koo Kyung-jae turned and left. Lee Kyung couldn't bear it anymore and immediately took out painkillers and swallowed them. She couldn't ignore this woman any longer. The woman was pouring water into the pool where the children were playing. After Koo Kyung-jae saw this, she thought the water was poisoned and quickly told the children to leave. At this moment, the girl finished drinking the remaining water. Only then did Koo Kyung-jae realize that this was just a trap set by her. In her hand was just a bottle of ordinary mineral water. Everything was under Lee Kyung's control. Meanwhile, the colleague responsible for surveillance in the car also encountered trouble. There was a strange smell in the car. The charcoal Lee Kyung had prepared began to spread. The colleague wanted to get out of the car, but discovered that the doors wouldn't open. Someone had locked them from the outside. Soon after, the 2 people in the car lost consciousness completely. When Koo Kyung-jae returned, the car was gone. At this moment, Koo Kyung-jae realized that the mastermind behind this was not easy to deal with. If she continued to investigate, her colleague would be in danger. After her colleague regained consciousness, she discovered that it was pitch black around her, and she couldn't see anything. Here is the text with sentences broken without changing the words or content. They tried to cut the ropes, opened the lid of the box, and discovered that it was a container. Moreover, they could clearly feel the icy cold seawater beneath their feet. They were trapped at sea. The colleague quickly called Koo Kyung-jae. Koo Kyung-jae rushed to find them with her assistant in an electric vehicle. They searched all the surrounding waters, but they couldn't find any containers. Meanwhile, the container was slowly being submerged by the seawater. The two people inside were still anxiously waiting for rescue. When Koo Kyung-jae reached the beach again, the sea was perfectly calm. Could it be that the container wasn't at the beach? So, she immediately took out her phone and started analyzing the area. The two missing people were near the parking lot, a freshwater lake that caught Koo Kyung-jae's attention. By this time, the container had completely sunk. The water pressure inside had reached its limit. The colleague inside tried her best and finally managed to open the door at the bottom of the container. Because the door needed someone to hold it open, Naji told Kyu to go first. As soon as he surfaced, he saw Koo Kyung-jae and the rescue team. When Naji was pulled out of the water, he was completely unconscious. Thankfully, both of them were safe in the end. Mak-hee, the mastermind behind everything, was observing everything from afar with binoculars. Suddenly, a man appeared behind her. He introduced himself as an expert from the Bird Lovers Club and said that a rare kingfisher had been spotted recently. He kept turning the binoculars so that Yi Kyung would look left and right, making her dizzy. Then, he took out a package and handed it to Yi Kyung. She didn't pay attention and prepared to continue watching Koo Kyung-jae. However, at that moment, two police officers arrived to find Yi Kyung, saying they had received a tip that someone in the area was carrying a maito, a type of bird. Yi Kyung was confused, and to her surprise, the police found the maito inside the package. Unluckily, Yi Kyung was taken to the police station for questioning, while the real culprit behind everything was the man who had been following her. What happened? But Koo Kyung-jae couldn't care less about that. After confirming her colleague was safe, she immediately started investigating. Upon hearing that Yi Kyung was detained at the police station, Koo Kyung-jae rushed over there. The man pulled out a pile of phones from his backpack, picked one up, and answered it. Yi Kyung, a girl who specializes in killing bad guys, would be on a plane to another country tonight. After hearing the news, everyone got busy. A large number of trackers were deployed at the suburban airport, blending in as passengers boarding the plane. The airport was like a net of heaven and earth. Strangely, these people weren't police officers, but were following orders from a woman over 60 years old, the owner of the insurance company. This time, she was also personally on the scene for the arrest, but the identity of this young Suk remained a mystery. At that time, Yi Kyung's aunt arrived at the airport to check in for her flight. She was immediately followed, but they couldn't find Yi Kyung. At that moment, the aunt received a message from Yi Kyung. They agreed to meet at the airport entrance. Koo Kyung-jae and her assistant were also waiting outside the airport, seeing that the flight was about to take off. The airport announced the boarding for the flight. The aunt nervously called Yi Kyung, and the insurance company people also located Yi Kyung's phone, discovering that she had entered the airport. Yi Kyung's appearance brought relief to Naji. Just as he relaxed a bit, he began to feel tense again. They couldn't find Yi Kyung at the location of the phone signal, and the airport surveillance cameras couldn't find her either. But when the call connected, they discovered that Yi Kyung was currently at home. Even the phone was brought to the airport by her subordinate and then used for a two-way call with her aunt. The net of heaven and earth was cast wide, but nothing was caught. The phone was then thrown into a trash can at the airport after the call ended. Just a moment ago, it was crowded with people, but it suddenly became eerily quiet, as those who were going to arrest Yi Kyung withdrew. After Yi Kyung learned that her opponents had deployed many people to surround her, not only was she not afraid, but she was actually very proud. As she was proud of herself for deceiving so many people, a figure suddenly appeared outside the door. Koo Kyung-jae had discovered Yi Kyung's hiding place. Now, she was looking through the window to find Yi Kyung. Koo Kyung-jae immediately tried to open the door. Yi Kyung inside tried to hold the door shut, but stubbornly holding the door wasn't a good solution. Yi Kyung opened the door, grabbed a nearby vase, and prepared to strike Koo Kyung-jae. When Koo Kyung-jae saw this, she immediately closed the door again. The situation reversed. Now Koo Kyung-jae was trying to keep the door closed while Yi Kyung was trying to push it open. Koo Kyung-jae, who was over 50, was ultimately no match for Yi Kyung. Soon after, Yi Kyung pushed the door open. Kyung-yi rolled over and stood up, standing in front of Koo Kyung-jae as if nothing had happened. What would happen when a twisted killer in her early 20s faced off against a female detective in her 50s? Koo Kyung-jae, who had been playing games at home and hadn't exercised regularly for a long time, was clearly no match for Yi Kyung. Yi Kyung aimed directly at Koo Kyung-jae's face and punched her repeatedly, finally landing a fatal blow. Koo Kyung-jae was almost sent to meet her ancestors at that critical moment. Koo Kyung-jae quickly grabbed a can of spray paint from the table and sprayed it into Yi Kyung's face. When Yi Kyung regained her senses, she discovered that she was handcuffed to Koo Kyung-jae. Then, Koo Kyung-jae swallowed the key. Thinking that Yi Kyung would be obedient, Koo Kyung-jae was surprised when Yi Kyung dragged her towards the nearby table, picked up a long knife, and prepared to strike. At this moment, a fishing net suddenly flew in, trapping them both. It turned out to be Koo Kyung-jae's mute assistant, Cam. Very quickly, Yi Kyung used the knife to cut through the net. Seeing this, the assistant took off running. Koo Kyung-jae was also thrown against the wall by Yi Kyung, who then took off her hairpin to unlock the handcuffs and ran away. As soon as she ran outside, she ran into a patrol police car sent by the mute assistant, Cam. Being mute had its disadvantages. Yi Kyung only had to say a few words to send the patrol police away. When they realized what had happened, Yi Kyung had already escaped on a surfboard. They quickly chased after her in a boat, but Yi Kyung unexpectedly jumped into the water. The real culprit behind it all once again disappeared before Koo Kyung-jae's eyes. Have you ever seen a company as strange as this? All the employees' afternoon tea was actually a cup of medication, but they were still proud. Because their boss was not only the chairman of a publicly traded corporation, but also the candidate for the next mayoral term. But one employee couldn't stand the bullying of all the other employees in the company and decided to leave. Kdrama, the man hailed as a righteous gentleman by everyone, made Koo Kyung-jae suspicious. To find the target of Kyung-jae's killings, she and Neji went to Kdrama's company for a visit. Koo Kyung-jae took out a bottle of cheap fruit juice from her bag and offered it to him. Kdrama said he liked to drink this kind of juice, but after opening the bottle, he didn't take a single sip. As he discussed the case with Na-jae, he placed the bottle of juice on the table. This action was noticed by Koo Kyung-jae, and when she asked about the voyeurism case, Kdrama always smiled, but every sentence he uttered seemed to change the subject. After the two left Kdrama's office, in Koo Kyung-jae's eyes, Kdrama was not a righteous gentleman but a hypocrite. Just as Koo Kyung-jae had said, when Kdrama was alone in the room, he revealed his cunning and twisted nature. At this moment, Koo Kyung-jae, who had just walked out of the room, stood at the elevator and counted down 5 seconds before turning around and going back to Kdrama's office. Coincidentally, she encountered Kdrama, who had just finished getting angry, and Koo Kyung-jae immediately pretended to forget something. At that moment, she noticed a remnant of Hyun Taeyeon's underwear on his pants and concluded that this man was a two-faced beast. Yi Kyung's next target was Kdrama. Now, the investigation team faced a complex issue. Someone like Kdrama deserved to die 1,000 deaths. If Yi Kyung really intended to kill Kdrama, should Koo Kyung-jae intervene or not? At this point, because her house had been sealed off by the police, she had to live a vagrant life. Every day, she could only live under a bridge. Even in such harsh circumstances, she was determined to plan her actions. Should a crazed killer who murders evil people be punished by law? Looking closely, this man was about to make a grand entrance at his company. 4 large trucks served as bodyguards beside him. As soon as he drove into the company, dozens of people in black suits bowed to him. Because he was not only the chairman of a publicly traded company, but also a future candidate for mayor. But even so, he couldn't escape Yi Kyung's punishment. In the blink of an eye, a package appeared in front of the Kdrama company gate. Everyone curiously rushed out to see, but a second later, the package exploded. After hearing the news, Kdrama placed all the blame on the security team leader. Then, he spent a lot of money to hire bodyguards, vowing to turn the conference room into an impenetrable fortress. But this didn't affect Kyung-jae's plan at all. Soon after, the event still took place as scheduled. At this time, Kyung-jae's investigation team was also monitoring the scene. Naji was in charge of commanding. Kyung-jae and her assistant disguised themselves as waiters and infiltrated the event with the bodyguards. At this moment, Yi Kyung's people also disguised themselves as waiters and infiltrated the exhibition. He pushed a food cart with a bomb attached into the exhibition hall, then pressed the button. A group of small robots crawled out of the food cart, attracting everyone's attention and drawing them closer. At this moment, Yi Kyung saw through his camera that please provide the specific thing Yi Kyung saw was also there. At this moment, Yi Kyung could no longer stay calm, so she immediately ordered her subordinates to please provide the specific thing Yi Kyung ordered to be pulled out. But her aunt not only didn't cooperate, but also kept asking where Yi Kyung was. Kyung-jae noticed her aunt's unusual behavior, and her subordinates, uncaring about her aunt's safety, chose to run away on their own. She sensed something was wrong and jumped off the machine. Unexpectedly, a second later, the machine behind her exploded. The exhibition hall instantly became chaotic. Kdrama entered the secret exit he had prepared beforehand. Yi Kyung, seeing this scene through her please provide the type of device Yi Kyung used to see the scene, immediately gave chase. Worried that her aunt would be in danger, Yi Kyung called her aunt and quickly rushed to the exhibition hall. But as Yi Kyung ran across the street, a car slammed into her. Hearing the sound of the brakes on the phone, her aunt immediately ran out, but unexpectedly fell into the trap Yi Kyung had set. Her aunt's chest was bleeding profusely, and it turned out a steel bar had pierced her. By the time Yi Kyung arrived, her aunt had already passed away. At this moment, everything became meaningless for Yi Kyung. Even the assassination target, Ji, had been taken away by Naji. With no time for grief, Yi Kyung pulled her aunt onto the chairman's car. On the other side, Kdrama was also taken by Naji's people to a deserted area. Mrs. Ng began questioning him. Through the phone, it was evident Kdrama and Jung-suk knew each other. Between them, they seemed to be hiding a secret. Kdrama muttered that he would keep the secret, but Jung-suk felt that only the dead could keep secrets. First, his subordinate took out a syringe and injected Kdrama with an unknown substance. He immediately lost consciousness. Then, they placed him in the car, fastened his seatbelt, started the engine, shifted into gear N, and used a piece of wood to press on the gas pedal. Finally, they tied a rope to the gear lever, the other end of which went through the car window, and pulled with all their might. The car immediately sped forward. But the story didn't end there. The butler calmly lit a match, then tossed it onto the ground soaked in oil. The car immediately burst into flames, causing the engine to explode upon contact with the fire. Ultimately, the case was treated as a traffic accident. After handling everything, the police held a funeral for Yi Kyung's aunt. But Yi Kyung, her only relative, was absent from the funeral. Yi Kyung was sitting in a diner. A mother at a nearby table was having a tantrum with her child. A slipper was thrown towards Yi Kyung's table. The owner, seeing this, rushed to apologize, but Yi Kyung pretended to be unfazed, then followed the woman outside. Then, she dragged the woman to the rooftop, stuffed the slipper into her mouth, and prepared to push her off. The woman, using all her strength, pushed Yi Kyung over, then took the opportunity to run away. Unexpectedly, Yi Kyung swung her arm, unexpectedly knocking the woman off the rooftop and sending her falling down. Yi Kyung rushed to check on the situation and found that the woman was dead. Then, Yi Kyung's subordinate took the woman's body and dumped it in the river. Because Kdrama was dead, Yi Kyung had now lost her target for revenge. Her subordinate beside her reminded her, didn't she want revenge for her aunt? These words genuinely rekindled Yi Kyung's interest. Knowing that Kyung-jae was a game addict, Yi Kyung created an account in the game and contacted Kyung-jae through it. Furthermore, she expressed a desire to meet Koo Kyung-jae in person. First, Koo Kyung-jae sent Yi Kyung a specific meeting location, then set a trap there. Unexpectedly, Yi Kyung had anticipated that Koo Kyung-jae would use this opportunity to capture her. Yi Kyung walked behind the man disguised as a waiter, a smile on her lips. She then put her arm around his shoulder. The police, about to help, were also knocked to the ground by Yi Kyung. Then, Yi Kyung pulled out the dagger she had prepared and inflicted a deep, long cut on his arm. She called Koo Kyung-jae and claimed that Ji had been taken away by a mysterious person, but the news reported it as a traffic accident. The investigation team clearly had many people, so why was only Naji promoted and given a raise? After saying this, Yi Kyung immediately hung up the phone and left the meeting place. Yi Kyung's next target was Naji, who usually stayed home alone. While Naji was off guard, Yi Kyung strangled her with a scarf until she fainted. The next day, Koo Kyung-jae went up the mountain to question Jung-suk about Ji's death, but she adamantly insisted that Ji died in a traffic accident. She also blamed Yi Kyung for being unprofessional, always allowing her to escape. As they were talking, Yi Kyung, wearing Naji's jacket, suddenly appeared before them. Koo Kyung-jae was shocked and seemed to understand the whole truth of the matter. This woman was locked in the trunk of a car, then taken to a deserted place and locked in a wine barrel. Then, a push sent Koo Kyung-jae tumbling down the mountain. The barrel rolled quickly to the foot of the mountain, passing through lush woods, crossing a stream, and finally falling into a pit. After Koo Kyung-jae regained consciousness, she found herself in the middle of a dark pit, surrounded only by a few iron bars. To test the depth of the pit, she took off a shoe and threw it down, but she couldn't hear any sound. It seemed a fall would be fatal. So Koo Kyung-jae slowly got up and decided to follow the iron bars to get out. Unfortunately, due to carelessness, she nearly fell. On the other side, Koo Kyung-jae's two assistants, using the GPS device in her shoe, arrived at a scrapyard outside. Suddenly, a shoe fell out of an armored vehicle, attracting the attention of the two assistants. Turning over the insole, they saw Koo Kyung-jae's GPS device. At this point, Koo Kyung-jae decided to try again, but she slipped and almost fell. Fortunately, she reacted quickly and grabbed hold of the iron bar. Desperately, she followed the iron bar, intending to jump over and grab the ladder. But unexpectedly, the ladder had deteriorated due to years of disrepair. Under the force, the ladder broke immediately. When Koo Kyung-jae woke up, the moon was already high in the sky. Luckily, she had fallen onto an old fishing net, saving her life. After resting for a night, Koo Kyung-jae picked up a fish can and used the lid to cut through the fishing net. Finally, she used the cut fishing net as a rope and slowly climbed up. Although the pit was only 100 meters deep, for Koo Kyung-jae, it felt like climbing to heaven. In the blink of an eye, it was midnight. Koo Kyung-jae had been climbing for a whole day and could see the opening of the pit. But at this point, Koo Kyung-jae had reached her limit. In this crucial moment, Naji reached out to pull her up. This is the most vicious mother I've ever seen. She shoved her son's head into a bowl full of chili paste, all because he fed a girl kimchi in public. Jung-suk, in order for her eldest son to be elected mayor, held a social gathering. To demonstrate her friendliness to the media, she had the girl beside him try the kimchi he made. But unexpectedly, the girl refused. Jong-suk's youngest son, Hein-tae, seeing this, ran over. He also asked the girl to try the kimchi he had made. As a result, not only did the girl eat the kimchi, but she also praised Hein-tae. Therefore, Mrs. Jung-suk called Hein-tae to the kitchen. It turned out Hein-tae knew the girl. Because of her, he had been blackmailed by scammers. Mrs. Jung-suk, hearing this, was furious and pressed her son's head into the chili bowl. After the event ended, Mrs. Jung-suk called Yi Kyung. She wanted Yi Kyung to help deal with the scammers who had blackmailed her son. Yi Kyung said she only killed bad people. Mrs. Jung-suk kept telling her about the heinous things the scammers had done. In the elevator, a man was on the phone. He was oblivious to Yi Kyung hiding behind a stack of balloons. Yi Kyung released a balloon to cover the camera. The remaining balloons exploded one after another. The balloons contained poisonous gas, which immediately spread throughout the elevator. The man wanted to press the elevator's alarm button, but unexpectedly got electrocuted and died. Soon, the man collapsed. This was Yi Kyung's easiest kill, because Mrs. Jung Suk was responsible for disposing of the body. The next target, KH, began to suspect Mrs. Jung Suk's motives. "Look at Yi Kyung, can you see the man hiding in there? He disguised himself just to eavesdrop on others gossiping." After listening, he immediately returned home to write an article. Suddenly, a string quietly went around his neck. The man was hanged. Yi Kyung, using the roof, entered the man's house. Her next assassination target was this journalist. Just as she saw the man's computer report, Yi Kyung realized he wasn't as evil as Mrs. Jung Suk said. So why did she want to kill this man? Yi Kyung threatened the reporter and found a memory card in his house. The contents of the memory card were Tom's secret. Yi Kyung put the reporter in a cardboard box, shipped it to her subordinate through a courier service. Unexpectedly, Koo Kyung-jae's team was currently at his house and happened to catch the reporter. The memory card was repaired by her subordinate, revealing that it was related to the previous incident on the yacht. Furthermore, the number of people on the yacht was less than the actual number. Someone in the video had been deliberately erased, preventing the person from finding the culprit for revenge. The reporter also revealed the source of the memory card, which was Tom shortly before the accident. At this point, Yi Kyung still thought she had disguised herself well and no one had discovered her. But the butler noticed something unusual. He realized that before the editorial office exploded, someone had shipped a large cardboard box out of the office. There was definitely something wrong with this box. After returning to the mansion, the butler confronted Yi Kyung. He believed that Yi Kyung had not yet killed the reporter in the editorial office, so he ordered others to inject Yi Kyung with a sedative, then took her to a secret room, intending to torture her to get a confession. After Yi Kyung woke up, she saw the man with an axe. Her mouth curved into a sneer. Just then, a cry for help came from the cell, and the next thing she did was to find Mrs. Jung Suk for revenge. This kid is a two-faced scum. In front of the media, he's a kind and studious young master, but in reality, he's a dissolute and tyrannical playboy who murders people without a thought. He often takes his yacht out to sea to throw parties, store and use various illegal drugs. He calmly takes photos with his phone. At the same time, KH also managed to open Kdram's USB and discovered that the person erased from the video was Mrs. Jung Suk's youngest son, named Hai. Mrs. Jung Suk, in order to protect her son, ordered Kdram's murder. Yi Kyung, who specializes in punishing evildoers, is also the target Mrs. Jung Suk wants to eliminate because her youngest son is a scumbag. On the other side, Yi Kyung arrived outside the temple, because her next assassination target is Mrs. Jung Suk's youngest son. Mrs. Jung Suk is also justifying her son's crimes. Suddenly, a man splashes acid on her face. The scene immediately becomes chaotic. Naji immediately takes off her coat to cover the camera lens. Mrs. Jung Suk is immediately taken to the hospital. Koo Kyung-jae also visits Mrs. Jung Suk, but she has no idea that she has been transformed into this appearance. It's all thanks to Koo Kyung-jae. She sent the video from the yacht to all the famous journalists in the editorial offices. From Koo Kyung-jae's perspective, if everyone knows what Mrs. Jung Suk has done, Yi Kyung won't dare underestimate her opponent. On the other side, Yi Kyung found Koo Kyung-jae's assistant. Although he had been following and investigating Yi Kyung for a long time, he also admired her way of punishing evildoers. So he gave her Tom's USB. After learning about Hint's crimes, Ki immediately called his subordinates. They began to assign tasks. Anyone who appeared in the video as an evildoer would receive a black doll at the same time. As Yi Kyung's people withdrew from the scene, they ran into Koo Kyung-jae. Yi Kyung still doesn't know that her people have been captured. She is still planning to deal with Hyun-T. Yi Kyung sent Hyun-T a text message from Sung-T. "If my brother dies, not only will my mother and I be happy, but the world will be surprised too." Hai heard this and told Yi Kyung that he was willing to pay 1 billion won for Yi Kyung to take care of his mother and brother. Then, Hyun-T held a press conference, intending to expose his brother's crimes to all the journalists. Unexpectedly, Yi Kyung had her people infiltrate the press conference. But when Hyun-T spoke, he caused a direct commotion, causing him to be overwhelmed by the crowd. At this moment, the butler, who intended to flee to a foreign country, also encountered trouble and suddenly broke down on the road. KH suddenly appeared behind him, fired a deadly shot into his head, and took the gun from his pocket. Then, he opened the car door. Mrs. Jung-suk now looks like a lamb ready for slaughter at any moment. Yi Kyung is ready to play a thrilling game with her. If she loses, she dies. If she has to choose between killing Ha In-gai PH letter 1EA1M or killing her own son, which would she choose? At this point, Mrs. Jung-suk doesn't know that 20 suspects have been gathered by Yi Kyung. Among them is her eldest son. Sung-T suddenly sees two small electric toys on the ground, one representing Hyun-T and one representing Ha In-gai PH letter 1EA1M. She has to make a choice within 60 seconds. But what surprised Yi Kyung is that Mrs. Jung-suk spared the lives of the 20 suspects. This shocked Yi Kyung. She never expected an old woman like her to be capable of this. But it's not over yet. Yi Kyung took Hyun-T's 1 billion won, so she couldn't go back on her word. She picked up the two electric toys again, one representing Hyun-T, one representing herself. Unexpectedly, she decisively chose her own life. Her actions left Yi Kyung confused. This wasn't Mrs. Jung-suk's style, so Yi Kyung removed the bandage from her face. The moment the bandage was removed, Mrs. Jung-suk transformed into Koo Kyung-jae. Discovering that her plan was foiled, Yi Kyung couldn't believe that all her plans were within Koo Kyung-jae's predictions. She followed the video in Yi Kyung's hand, sent her assistant to an abandoned building. Furthermore, she told him to release all the suspects. One of the suspects told the assistant that Sung-T was still unconscious inside the building. The assistant, after hearing this, immediately ran inside the building. He saw Yi Kyung about to detonate a bomb. Koo Kyung-jae quickly found a topic to talk about to buy time, asking Yi Kyung to give her the remote control. Finally, Koo Kyung-jae actually pressed the button. The entire building exploded. Naji immediately ran inside and began searching. Fortunately, she found the assistant and Sung-T in the refrigerator. On the other side, Mrs. Jung-suk's people had surrounded the entire opera house, pointing guns directly at Yi Kyung. Even Mrs. Jung-suk herself arrived, with a vengeful look on her face. She raised her gun and shot Yi Kyung's subordinate, causing him to fall to the ground. Koo Kyung-jae wanted to check the situation, but she was shot by Mrs. Jung-suk, stopping her. It seems Mrs. Jung-suk intends to kill everyone. At this moment, Yi Kyung picked up a pistol and shot at the other party. But when they dodged the bullets, they pulled their subordinate who was hiding behind the curtains. But the injured subordinate was shot. His life was in danger. Seeing that the four of them had no escape route, Mrs. Jung-suk advised them to stop resisting and stay still. But Koo Kyung-jae unexpectedly threw a bomb. Seeing this, Yi Kyung immediately ran over and pressed the detonation button. When Koo Kyung-jae calmed down, she had her subordinates flee. Koo Kyung-jae gave chase, seeing the two of them get on a train, so she followed. The three of them were on the same carriage, preparing for the final showdown. At this moment, KH suddenly laughed and asked Koo Kyung-jae if she knew that her subordinate had always been following her. Seeing that Koo Kyung-jae didn't react, Yi Kyung laughed, then explained the reason. It turns out that Hungi was a famous prosecutor the previous year. But one day, her husband's student jumped into the river. When everyone was clueless about what happened, a person pointed a finger at her husband's face and said that he had messed with the student's feelings. At that time, even Koo Kyung-jae believed it. She wondered what happened to her husband. Seeing that even the wife he loved deeply didn't believe him, the man finally couldn't withstand the pressure and took his own life. But in reality, the girl who jumped into the river had a secret boyfriend, who was also Koo Kyung-jae's assistant. But at that time, he was scared and chose to pretend not to know anything. The reason he chose to be Koo Kyung-jae's assistant was because he couldn't overcome the barrier in his heart. As soon as Yi Kyung finished speaking, Koo Kyung-jae rushed forward and grabbed the assistant. Knowing she had succeeded, Yi Kyung took out a gun and gave Koo Kyung-jae a choice: shoot herself or shoot the assistant. Unexpectedly, Koo Kyung-jae suddenly rushed forward and fought Yi Kyung. The assistant ran to help and was knocked unconscious. Yi Kyung was no match for Yi Kyung. After a while, she was subdued. Just as Yi Kyung was about to pull the trigger, Koo Kyung-jae regained consciousness, immediately opened the door, embraced Yi Kyung, and jumped out. The two of them fell unconscious in the forest. Finally, they were caught by the police. An endless prison sentence awaits her. And Koo Kyung-jae was taken to the hospital for treatment, enjoying everyone's care. Mrs. Yong-suk was eventually arrested by the police because the video was released. Her youngest son was charged with intentional injury and drug abuse. Hyun-tae, her eldest son, although he didn't do anything wrong, was still implicated by his family. Finally, he had no choice but to withdraw from the election list. No matter what happens, no one can escape the law of karma.